Hey, good evening. This is the Sunday 6 p.m. session on September the 10th. I'm just going to record basically my mapping for the day. I know some of you are busy today, so perhaps you're not on the call. And so hopefully I can go through my process of mapping the daily ranges and the expected overnight range so that you can trade around that. So first off, on my chart here, I'm just going to show you on the 1 hour chart what the price range has been for the past week. So I'm just going to scoot this over here. So on the right here is basically the SU 2023 chart. I have here a template that I've been recommending to follow just so that you map the necessary ranges. Basically the candle pivot points for the deviation expected for ES, the prior day full range, and the prior day regular day session trading range. Later on in the morning, tomorrow morning, we can add the overnight lows and highs for the extended session as that provides some context about how much further the daily movement will transpire during the New York session. So right now I have here basically from this line here, Friday last week until Friday here. So I'm just going to draw two lines, two vertical lines. And they're not so visible, so I'm going to make them wider. Just the shaded gray there. And basically we had this huge downtrend from all of last week. Not much of an uptrend. And if I just hide some of these indicators here, make the chart a bit more clear, you can see we had, one higher high here, and then on Thursday we had that big move overnight, in the morning. And then since that move, we've been moving up towards almost a 30% retracement. So what I'm going to do right now is start off by charting that weekly range. And on here, I have done that in the past. So I'm just going to remove that and reuse that later on. We can map the monthly range again. And what I'm interested in is looking at the weekly range, essentially from the Friday close to the Friday close. And first off, that would be right here to right here. And we have a prior high here, so I'm going to use that prior high as well. So this is the full range. And this can serve two purposes. This can show us how much of the price is retraced, or we can try to estimate how much more it will retrace. And also, if we expect the full rebound, what would be the expansion of this weekly range, let's say this week and into next week, if we expect price to for whatever reason continue to expand. But first off, that will allow us to take a measure of how much movement to expect within this 0 to 1 range. So I'm going to put here weekly range. It's very simple. Nothing special about that. And then on the opposite side, do the same thing for the down leg here. So we can shrink that a little bit, and you can move the pips however you wish. I'm just going to put it this way. And in red, I just coded red, so it's a bit more easy. So very briefly on this 1 hour chart, we can observe price came up to almost 0.382 retracement from this low on Thursday. And that's just a little bit lower than our IB high from Friday. And so we'll see how price tests again at the 44.71 and at the 44.52. So these two ranges within this IB range. So it'll be interesting to see how the price reacts during this money range. Above the 0.32, we might see price move quickly to the 4494 because there was this prior imbalance here midweek, leaving a large amount of liquidity on the buy side. So basically shorts may buy back quickly with stops. So that would be an interesting play if we surpass this 44.71. Something to keep an eye on. So I set up a regular range here. It's not on my chart here, but now what I'm going to do now is look at the Camarilla pivot points and the full prior day range on Friday. So for that, I like to use the 15-minute. And I'm going to pull up the Camarilla pivot points. And I'm using, for the overnight, the full day range. So don't use the daily based one, use the full range if you're using the standard pivots calculator from TradingView. And I can see here the lines above in red and or brown, and the lines below in blue. And typically during the Asia session up to the UK session, we do see price tend to consolidate between the R2 and S2. Sometimes it'll come down to the S3 or R3, and very, very easily you can put a block there to consider that your initial guess of where there will be a premium level here and a discount level here. So I'm just going to code those first in colors for this chart. I'm going to check that we're recording this session. Yes, okay. So in green here, this is my initial support discount level based on cameras. And then up here is our premium based on Camarilla. But that's not a very exhaustive search. We're just using the Camarilla calculation based on the Friday range. Anywhere in between, it's going to be a bit harder to get in and out because the price may chop around. So if you look at Friday or Thursday evening, same thing happened. It chopped around here, but once it came down to the discount range overnight, actually into the UK Open, and then after the UK Open, using the same Camarilla pivot points, S1, here will be S2 actually, and S3, this became a perfect spot to take a short as it dipped quickly. And once it got to the other side, it overshot a bit, but this became a discount zone. So you could put the discount a bit higher than S3, let's say here. But typically if it goes beyond that, you're getting to an area where stops will be triggered and it could cause a push all the way to the other side. Typically that doesn't happen during the overnight. There's not enough volume for that to happen. Just gonna take a pause here for a second. Excuse me. So back to this premium discount level based Camarillas, I would say overnight, I'm going to try again to put limit orders at the S3 or just below it for buys, and the sell order just be above R3 for now until I look at the IB data from the options chain. So continuing on that, I'm going to put in this chart here, the price level. So below 55.43 and then above 44.23. And, I think that's going to be the overnight expected max as well, but we can compare that with the Camarilla pivot points. And actually, for the key pivot, I should actually put for the evening session the R2 and S2. So that would be 44757, 45, let's say, and we'll leave it as 457 and 4469. It's not a big range, but those are the areas you can watch for during the Asia session. Typically, it will bounce off that because volume isn't very high. So I have here support resistance. Sorry, I should clarify that. This should be 457 or 2. Excuse me, 69. And this should be S2. And here, the same thing for the pivot support, our S3. And above, we have 4473 or 3. Now, for the floor range, I'm going to pull up the Fibonacci expansion tool. And we use the full day range from here to here. Pull it over here. And likewise, do the opposite move here to here. I'm going to use the expansion now. So once again, I'm going to drag it over here. So now we have this. I'm going to save this price map for those who are following, and I'm just going to copy that link here. And if you look at our Fibonacci levels, we can see the 0.786 corresponds very nicely with this overlay of this purple box, which we have labeled the premium based on the Camarilla pivots. So that happens to be the 4470 as well. And if you look at the opposite side, the 0.618, 0.786 is actually a bit lower based on that full range. So what happened on Friday was the point of control was a bit higher than the, and we had a bit of a movement during the normal regular session. So this kind of moved further up, and perhaps the discount would actually be tomorrow or overnight at the 0.618 and less likely at the 0.786. So that's why it's good to, that's why it may be good to map these discount and premium levels in multiple ways. In this case, I'm using the Camarilla pivot points and also the Fibonacci expansion and retracement on the full day range. Now you can also do this with a prior day regular session range. So I just did that with the full day range. So I'm going to mark that and put it on the side here. I like to put them at the front. Just kidding. But it's your convention where you put these. I'm just going to put them right here and right here. And then for the full day range, sorry, for the numbers, I'm going to code them here. So full day range. So the key pivot above is probably going to be the 4470. And the way I have coded this chart is not so precise, but I'm going to just add these numbers side by side, and maybe I'll update the chart. So 4470 is here, and then below we have 4456 as our max low, I guess, for the pivot overnight. So, what I'll do here now is the prior day regular session trading hours. And if you look here, this is where we have our New York session block. So I'm just going to draw a line vertical. And now I'm going to do the same exercise, but on the full day range of the RTH. And once again, on the opposite end, code it in green, in red. And now we have our RTH here on the middle and our full day range on the outside. So this is a bit much of information. Some people find that to be a lot. What I'm going to do is move the weekly over. Perhaps I'll put this full day range here so it's a bit more clear. And I'll code that here. Range. And here's our RTH. And all this can be automated. I'm just doing it manually for the sake of showing you how you may want to code it if you were to code it. And here I'm going to code it, write it, ready? With RTH range, again, we see price being a little bit higher. You could speculate that maybe Now the retracement is going to stop right here at the 0.618, and that's what happened here at 4 o'clock using the full day range of RTH. And probably we can come up a little bit higher than that full Friday range if we use the 4472 here. So I'm going to put 4472 here. 425. And likewise here, I'm going to do the opposite end retracement. And it's going to be 0.786 in my view here if we're using that full day range. Possibly, during the regular session, we might come down to 1.272. So it's kind of key here. Those values line up very nicely. We have 0.786 lining up with S2 on the retracement. And we have the 1.272 lining up with the S4. So there's some correspondence between those values. And I'm going to use right here 0.786 for 5725. And I think this will still be a good discount area to buy into overnight. So if I expand this level, I'm going to move this back a little bit. I'm going to move this over here. And now I'm going to adjust this here to be roughly there. Should the price get above this area overnight, then we might see, a gap up to the R4 and S4, but that may not happen until the EU session or the UK or the New York session. So for now, this is the suggested overnight range. And probably into the New York range, we can do another chart. But if you're trying to speculate ahead, there. And I think my chart needs to be shrunken here. Yep. And so here I'm going to put the premium using the full Friday range and the full RTH range. Our 1.414 is here, 1.212 is here, so 272. So I think this would be an area of premium for the regular session. And again here, S4. We might see price come down below the S4 if we do have a sell-off. But looking at the range here, if we're just doing trends, right now we're climbing higher. I don't like to draw the trends for these because the levels to me are a bit more precise. And I'm going to remove this on camera. This is based on fibs. But I'll leave the overnight as Camarilla because I find that to be a bit more reliable than the fibs for the overnight. So that's basically it. We have the premium and the discount for the overnight range. We have the premium and discount range for the New York open range, and I'm going to move this over here. And we drew our fibs for the Friday RTH range and the Friday full day range. Tomorrow morning, I'll add pivots. I'll add the fibs based on the overnight pivots. Typically, we may have a pivot that's a new lower high and a higher low. That might be useful for gauging what the further expansion might be. So something along the lines of a premium between this area and this area, the overnight premium and the regular estimated day premium. That will give us a bit more precision. And if the overnight range gets beyond the premium and discount window that we mapped, then we might see even wider range. So that's kind of interesting. If you see this push higher or lower than this range, then that's telling us that the market is already seeking a price expansion, and it's going to try to discover, where that bounds would be. And probably it would stop at the S4 or the R4 anyways. That's in a nutshell how I would map it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me any questions in Discord, email, or in the comment section for this video. Thanks. Have a good day.